Laura. Welcome back to my channel. It is time to wrap up all the books that I read in the month of November. This month I did not do a mid-month wrap-up, which I'm a little upset about because I hate long wrap-ups, and I ended up reading 10 books this month. So it is what it is. Let's get into it. Let's go over some of my stats, shall we? Of those 10 books that I read this month, 6 of them were 2019 releases. I read 3 3-star, 5 4-star, and 2 5-stars. And for formats, I read 5 of them physically and 5 of them via audio. And I also had 2 graphic novels. For the age range, I read 3 adult and 7 YA. So a very YA heavy month. November was also the first month that I did a monthly TBR. And I had 10 books on that TBR, and I did read 10 books this month, but I didn't get to all the ones that were on my TBR. So I ended up not finishing Ninth House. I didn't read Wilder Girls, and then the 3 of the 4 new releases that I wanted to get to, I didn't get a chance to get to, which was Queen of Nothing, Supernova, and Girls of Storm and Shadow. I haven't even bought them yet. November also contained the Buzzwordathon, which I did take part in, and I ended up finishing 3 books for the readathon. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with those. So round 5 of Buzzwordathon was all about reading books with numbers in the title. And I started by reading 7 Brief Lessons on Physics by Carlo Rovelli. So I ended up really enjoying this book, even though it was definitely different from what I expected it to be. And I don't know why I expected so much from it when it's such a tiny, tiny book. It's only 81 pages. And I expected to learn a little bit more, but I really didn't. I think that this is maybe a good little introduction book if you know nothing about physics, but I found that I just didn't get what I wanted from it because I wanted to know more, I guess. And these were very, very brief, like it says, introductions to some scientific theories. I really enjoyed, though, about this book, the way Carlo Rovelli wrote. I felt like his writing was absolutely beautiful. And you can tell that he is someone who adores the subject that he's speaking on. And just kind of the way he brought things to life and just, just the way he expressed himself, I really, really loved. And because of that, I gave it a 4 stars. But again, I don't think that this is a book that I would necessarily recommend because it doesn't have that much information in it, obviously. And I should have known that going in. So that's really not the book's fault, it's my fault. But like I said, just because of his beautiful, beautiful writing, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars and really enjoyed it. The next book that I picked up for Buzzwordathon was 3 Dark Crowns by Kendari Blake. And I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed with this one. So in this world, this takes place on the island of Fenburn. And on the island of Fenburn, how it works is that it's a queendom, and every queen has a set of triplets. And once she gives birth to her triplets, she leaves the island. And when her triplets reach the age of 16, they have to kill each other. And the last one standing becomes the true queen of Fenburn Island. They are separated into 3 different categories when they're really young. And so we have one queen who is a naturalist. She has the ability to make things grow and also to control animals. And then we have the elemental queen who has the power of storms and fire, the elements. And then we have a poisoner queen who has the ability to ingest poison and have it not affect her, and also is very good at poisoning others. So the 3 queens that we're following this time is Arsinoe, who is the naturalist queen, and then we have Mirabella, who is the elemental queen, and Katarine, who is the poisoner queen. At this particular time, things go a little bit differently because a couple of the sisters are not really interested in killing each other, and we have one queen who is very strong and in her power, and then we have 2 other queens that don't seem to have their gifts at all. And so we follow them as the time approaches when they have to eliminate each other. And the story goes from there. And I was a little bit disappointed. Like I said, I was expecting so much more. I didn't feel like the characters in here were very well developed. Any of the characters, except for maybe Arsinoe, I think that she had a very strong personality and I think that she was pretty well rounded, but as far as the other characters, they could all be the same, basically. They were very one-dimensional to me. I also was not invested in the story that much at all. Thought about DNFing it, to be honest, and then the only reason I didn't really is because I was listening to it on audiobook and I just wanted to get through it. So this book, I ended up giving a 3 out of 5 stars. And then I moved on to the next book and finished it for Buzzwordathon, which is, what's it called? One Dark Throne by Kendari Lake. So One Dark Throne was definitely a lot more intriguing to me from the beginning. What I really like about this world is I like the world. I like the world building. I like the political system, because basically we have queens that only rule for a short period of time. They only rule until they give birth to triplets, and then they leave the island. And while the triplets are young, you know, who's ruling this queendom? There's a council of people called the Black Council. I think it was the Black Council. And then we also have like a priesthood that is full of all women. And so really those two different factions that are always kind of fighting against each other, they are the ones that are truly ruling. So I thought that that was very interesting. I liked a lot of the political maneuverings. I liked the world and how it was set up. I liked the magic. But other than that, I don't really feel like these books were all that interesting. And the only character in this entire series that I'm interested in is Arsinoe and what happens to her, because she is pretty awesome. I like her. But I gave One Dark Throne 3 stars, and I started reading the next one, which is Two Dark Reigns. I didn't finish it. I was like 70% of the way through, and I just DNF'd it. And I think I'm gonna officially DNF it. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll go back to it, but for right now, I don't see the point in reading and continuing this series when I'm just not that invested, unfortunately. So that was that. That was the Buzzwordathon. So let's talk about the rest of the books that I read. The first book that I finished during the month of November was Loki, Where Mischief Lies, and this is by Mackenzie Lee. I have since returned this to the library, so I'll put up a picture. But I ended up really enjoying this. So this follows Loki when he's younger, like teenager maybe, something like that. And the story starts off with him and his friend Amora. Was her name Amora? Oh my god, I can't remember details. This is so bad. Him and his friend Amora accidentally break this very ancient magical artifact that's very important to them, and because of that, Amora gets banished to Midgard, to Earth. And a few years after that, Odin gets word that there is some mysterious deaths happening on Earth that involves Asgardian magic, and so Loki is sent to Earth to figure out what's going on. And he discovers his friend Amora, and that maybe she has something to do with all these murders and what's going on. And the story goes from there. And I really enjoyed this. Like I said, what I really enjoyed was Loki's characterization. I thought that it was very true to character. I loved the humor in here. The banter between Loki and anybody really, but mostly between him and Thor. Any interaction between Loki and Thor was so hilarious. I loved kind of getting deeper into Loki's motivations and his emotions and kind of how he was brought up and the things that kind of shaped him and molded him and motivated him to become what he became. I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was all done very well. But I will say that I feel like this book didn't live up to its fullest potential. I read another book by Mackenzie Lee. I forgot what it was. It was like I think it was like a Frankenstein retelling. And This Monstrous Thing, that's what it was called. And I felt the same way after reading that one. Such a great idea, such a great premise, such a great plot idea. It lacked something, and I don't know what that something was, but it just didn't live up to its fullest potential. I still ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars because I love Loki so much, and I just loved all of the character interaction, all of the banter. It was so great. It was a little bit weak here and there for me, but overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Loki. If you're a fan of the MCU, definitely pick this one up. I think that it's well worth the read. The next book I finished is another book that I have since returned to the library, but it is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. This is a cute little autumnal graphic novel that just was so full of autumn and like great autumn foods and just cuteness. It was so good. So in this one, we're following our main characters, Deja and Josiah. It is their very last night working at this pumpkin patch, and they are determined to, make it their best night ever. Josiah has had this crush on the fudge shop girl for the entire time that he's been working there. Deja convinces him, like, this is the night, this is our last night, you have to talk to her. And so they both go out on this adventure around the pumpkin patch to find this girl, and along the way they meet with a lot of interesting things, and there's just so much great food in here. I really loved the main character Deja because she is all about her snacks. Her mission that night was to like eat as many snacks as she could, and I'm like, that's me. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend this. It's perfect for the autumn season, even though we're kind of moving out of that now quickly, but I loved it so much. I thought it was so adorable. The art in here was stunning. I absolutely loved the art style, so definitely pick it up if you haven't yet. And then I finally finished a book that I have been wanting to finish for so long, and that is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. I loved this. So I thought that the first 2 books in the series were great, but I had a lot of problem with pacing and plot and structure and writing, but I had none of those problems with this. This one I gave a full 5 out of 5 stars. So after the events of the last book, we enter the story with a Selena who is broken. She is hollow, she is numb, she's depressed, and I loved seeing her rise out of that and really step into the role that she needed to step into. I loved the characterization of Selena in this one so much. I thought it was so well done. I loved all the very subtle political maneuverings, and I loved freaking Manon and Abraxos and the 13. So that was so much fun. Oh my goodness. I love the Fae in here and kind of how they work, but I love the witches. I cannot wait to get more Manon and Abraxos. I hope there's more of them in the following books because I'm super excited about that. And I cannot wait to pick up the next book. I'm probably going to be doing that in January. And I just loved it. I loved it so much. Gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, like I said. And yeah, I think it's great. The next book I finished was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig, and this shocked me with how much I loved it. So let me try to explain this. It's been a while. I finished this earlier on in the month. It's hard remembering plots of books like a month later, really. But anyway, this one takes place on this island in a manor by the sea, and we follow our main character, Anna Lee. She lives in this manor with her 11 other sisters. However, when we enter the story, her sisters have been dying one by one, and I believe when we enter the story, we're at the 4th death of her sisters. So there's only 8 of them left at this point. And with this latest death, Anna Lee believes that her sister was murdered. It was not an accident. And so she goes on this journey to figure out what is going on, why her sisters are dying off one by one, and try to find the murderer of her sisters. So while that is going on and they are just surrounded by grief, the sisters discover this secret magical door that transports them to far off lands, and they attend these fancy balls and dance the night away. And Annalie enjoys it at first, but then she becomes very suspicious. Like, what really is happening? Why is this door taking us to all these balls? And she begins to wonder exactly who or what they're dancing with. And I think that's all I'm going to say about it. I think that this is such a fun book to go into almost completely blind, knowing nothing, and just discover the story for yourself because it's so beautiful. I loved the myth involved with this. There's a lot of gods and goddesses. This takes place on an island where they mainly worship the god Pontos. Was it Pontos? Pontus. I think it was Pontus. And he is the sea god. Also, there's known to be gods and goddesses that walk amongst the people. There was like a goddess of the arts that likes to go to the theater, and you know, the people see them, they interact with them, and I loved that so much. I also loved how incredibly dark this got in some points. Like, some of it was creepy because Anna Lee is starting to have these creepy, ghostly visions of her dead sisters. And it was so vivid, so well written, and just creepy. And as well as the creepiness, it was really atmospheric. You could taste and smell the salt of the sea. You could feel the cold in your bones when it started snowing. And I just loved how incredibly lush, beautifully written this was. I think that Aaron A. Craig is an incredible writer, and this was an incredible debut, and I loved it so, so much. There were a lot of elements in here that reminded me of Caraval by Stephanie Garber, which is not a book that I enjoyed all that much, but like some of the dancing scenes, the ball scenes, and even the romance, like the main romance in here definitely reminded me of Caraval, mostly like Donatella's relationship. So, and I really love this. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't quite like a 5-star perfect read for me, but it was very, very close, and I cannot wait to read more from Aaron A. Craig in the future. So next I listened to an audiobook, and that was Embrace Your Weird, Face Your Fears and Unleash Creativity by Felicia Day. This is a self-help book that is pretty self-explanatory. It's all about creativity, finding creativity, rekindling your creativity, and it talked a lot about the things that get in the way of your creativity, anxiety. There were some very good tips on like how to deal with anxiety when it comes to being creative, and also dealing with doubt and just how harsh we can be as critics of ourselves. And I thought that she made some really good points. I don't think that there was anything necessarily groundbreaking in here, but the way that she delivered it was really, really fun. She is hilarious. And I didn't know anything about Felicia Day before picking up this book. I think I saw this book on Bethany's channel from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I think she really enjoyed it. But Felicia Day is an actress, a TV writer and producer. She is hilarious. I loved all the energy that she brought into this. She narrates the audiobook herself, and I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook because the way she delivers things is just so much fun. So I really enjoyed this one. I got a lot out of it. I definitely want to eventually pick up a physical copy because it's something that I would like to go back to and reference. It also has like little exercises and like worksheets within the book, so I definitely want to pick up the physical copy, and I highly recommend this. If you are a creative person or you want to be more creative, this is definitely a great book, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Another graphic novel that I read this month that I have also since returned to the library is Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker. This was very highly anticipated graphic novel for me because it is all about a witch named Nova? Oh my god. I can't remember names. I think it's Nova. Oh my gosh. And she is a witch, and she lives with her grandmothers, and they run this bookstore slash coffee shop, which is really cute and cozy, and they have like this back room full of magical books. And she runs into an old childhood friend of hers who is Tam, who is this non-binary werewolf. And the two of them come together again and have to face this evil. And they also end up maybe rekindling their relationship. And I thought it was really cute. I loved the art in here. It was so, so beautiful. I wish I had it to show you. But I wasn't really invested in the story. I loved the diversity in here. The main character, I hope her name is Nova, she wears hearing aids, and I thought that that was a very interesting rep. And then we have the non-binary character and the relationship that those two developed, and I thought it was really, really great as far as diversity. I just wasn't all that invested in any of the characters or the story. It was just kind of okay for me. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. And we are now down to the final book, which was my favorite book of the month, my favorite book ever, maybe? And that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I love this. I love this so much with my whole heart. She wrote The Night Circus, which until this one was my favorite book ever. And this one, I don't even know how to explain this, but I'm gonna try. So in this book, we follow Zachary Rollins. When he was a little boy, discovered this painted door in an alley. The door really drew him in. He really felt called to it. And he knew that if he reached out and touched the door, he'd be able to open it and go inside. And he chooses not to open it. He walks away because he figures it's better to not open it, to not try, than to be disappointed if it doesn't open. So fast forward years from then to when he is a graduate student and he's at his university's library, and he finds a book, a very unusual book that doesn't have an author, and he starts reading it. And in that book, he finds the story of him from a little boy and that door. And so he's definitely, intrigued and wondering, how is it possible that his story is in this book? So he starts following the clues on the book, which include a key, a bee, and a sword. And he follows those clues, and they eventually lead him to this amazing underground library that is full of books and magic and cats and the Starless Sea. But really, that is such basic description of this book, when it is so much more than that. There's so much going on in here. Not only do we get to follow Zachary and his adventures, but we also read stories from the book that he found, as well as some other books. And the stories are all connected in some way that you don't know until the very end of the book. And it was so beautiful. I really don't know what I can say about this book that will do it justice, but I loved this so much. It made me cry several times. This book, it is a love letter to stories in all their forms, whether that be books, whether that be video games, beautifully done. It meant so much to me. And I think that this is a book that so many people will love and treasure. And I know that it won't be the book for everybody, but I think that everyone should at least give it a chance. It is simply the most beautiful book that I have ever read. I think that Erin Morgenstern's amazing writing came through again, but in an even better way in this book. Not only that, but I loved the humor in here. I think that there was a lot of humor thrown in, more so than in The Night Circus. And I loved our main characters so much. Zachary is funny and witty and smart. I loved the relationship between him and the other main character, Dorian. Zachary is gay, and he's also described as having brown skin, and I loved the relationship that formed in here so much. I would die for both of them. Like, I just love those characters so much. All the characters in here. There's so many moving pieces in this book that I cannot wait to reread it and be able to connect things even more. It's definitely a book that you have to read slowly, and it's definitely a book that you're gonna want to reread again and again and again. And I can tell you right now that I definitely will be. Yeah, like, I don't know what else I can say. Read this book. Read this book. Obviously, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like this book was written for me. It has every element that I want, that I need in a book. I feel like this is the book of my soul. And yeah, just read it, okay? So those are all the books that I read in the month of November. I really do hope you enjoyed this wrap up. Do let me know if you have any thoughts or opinions on the books that I mentioned in this wrap up. I don't know what I was going to say there. And let me know if you've picked up the Starless Sea or if you're now interested in picking up the Starless Sea or really any of the books that I mentioned today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos from me. But that is going to be it for today's video. I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.